Hello, everyone, and welcome to another segment of Black Op Radio. This is Len Osanek, and we are talking to Pete Johnson today about JFK assassination research and specifically what's going to happen in Dealey Plaza in 2013. So welcome to the show, Pete.
Thanks, Len. I appreciate being here. It's great to make the trip to Canada and meet you for the first time, and I'm glad to be on.
Good. Well, for maybe people who aren't familiar with you, do you want to give us just a brief background and your interest in the JFK assassination, and we'll get into the details of other things in a bit?
Sure. Like a lot of people, when I was growing up, history was a little boring, but I took in college a Native American history course. It was really interesting. And after that, I read a lot of history. I remember reading Watergate, books about Watergate and that kind of thing when that was going on. And then in it must have been 92 when the press started pillaring Oliver Stone's movie before it actually came out. I decided that I wanted to read some books on the JFK assassination. And, of course, I don't remember all of what I read back then, but I know I read Rest Your Judgment and 6 Seconds in Dallas, and I read Secret Team by Fletcher Prouty early on. And I remember Anthony Summers' book was one of the first ones I read. So that happened, and then in 1993, I attended the ASK conference in Chicago. And the reason I decided to go there was that the press, the establishment media, was saying that all these people that thought somebody else killed Kennedy were either profiteers or nutcases or whatever. So I wanted to do that, and that was a really important experience along the way.
Yeah, what was your recollection of the conference? I mean, very important?
Very important. And the thing, one thing I tell people once in a while is that, when I'm in a room with a bunch of people, I very rarely think that the guy I'm talking to is 10 times smarter than me. But all of a sudden, I was in a room where it seemed like everybody in the building was smarter than me, and it was really impressive. Presentations and really knowledgeable people, and I didn't get the feeling that anybody was in it to make money. They were in it because they felt like a giant wrong had happened that affected the country. They were patriots, and they just felt like this was something that they couldn't just sweep under the rug and go on with their lives. And so I was really impressed with the presentations there and what I learned there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one in 2003 that I've heard was very good. Cyril Wecht had put on. So, sometimes these are real watershed moments, a real good conference, a real good situation happens where people are asking the government to do more, and there's a new government now. So, like with, after the film, they put the Assassination Records and Review Board together to say, well, okay, what records are out there? And we're still looking for more now.
Yes. Yeah, in those, I attended some COPA conferences and some other things throughout the years, and I met John Judge and Jim DiEugenio and Lisa Peace, and over the years I've heard speak, Cyril Wecht and Michael Parenti and so many great researchers, too many to mention really, but and then, of course, I started listening to Black Op Radio podcasts, so I've heard, so much, been exposed to so much more through those than I could have, just reading the books and things. So it's just something that's really important to me, and that's why I got involved in this. And so one of the things that I'm doing now is I've got a website called OccupyTheGrassyKnoll.com.
Right.
And the way that happened is that I had heard, and I don't exactly remember how, but talking to John Judge, that Dallas had rejected giving us our permit for the moment of silence that we've been holding for 49 years.
Yeah.
And that was very disturbing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, Gary Mack's comment, we can't find enough paperwork detailing that the moment of silence should have, it's ridiculous, pathetic.
Right.
I mean, anyone who has even looked into a few of these knows that Penn Jones Jr. and John Judge has done that forever, for 49 years and carry on the tradition. And then Lancer, they have their, and other people got together, but seriously,
Yeah, and so we were just chatting, and I said something about Occupy Dealey Plaza, and John immediately thought that Occupy the Grassy Knoll had a better marketing ring to it. And so I looked on domain names and found that was available, so I bought it and registered it and learned how to put a website together. But the the goal is to be able to, as opposed to the COPA website or the Sitka website or any of the other various websites that are out there. So many people do so great a work on this. Those are all basically geared to research and uncovering and writing articles and that kind of thing. They're not really geared to dissent, I guess is the best word for it. And I just felt like all of us need to be able to come together to make our voices heard at this very important 50th anniversary, where there will be thousands of people and international reporters and that kind of thing, and that we can't just allow this opportunity where we get pushed to the side.
So now, what are your plans that you've made the website? I think you've sent a few emails to me outlining a few things, which I'll post as show notes beside the interview here. So, but let's just go over them.
Well, like I say, I think everybody that's involved in this and that's been reading these books and studying this assassination and the other assassinations for the last 50 years feels like it's really important, and that's why we keep doing it. And the idea that Dallas would basically say in one way or the other that nothing to see here, don't look here, everything's fine, we're going to talk about Kennedy's life, not his death, it's just flabbergasting. And we are already going to have to push back against the propaganda that's going to come out, the Tom Hanks movie and the other things.
I mean, they could do that in Washington or wherever his museum is, or celebrate his life. But at Dealey Plaza is where he was shot and murdered, and that's where the investigation starts from, and then the city of Dallas. And really, it is, confusing that Dallas would want to kind of circle the wagons and say, we're going to pretend nothing happened.
Right.
We're just going to go on with what's always gone on, is we're going to deny any wrongdoing here, and it was a lone nut. And, I shouldn't be surprised by that, but it's amazing that more people in Dallas haven't said, listen, we can clear our name, really, by proving who did do it. And if you find out that it wasn't Lee Oswald, it was an orchestrated effort, then it wasn't, the citizens of Dallas, and they were known as the City of Hate, right, for so long, right? And maybe they should pick that name up again. But,
I'm not sure why Dallas is responding the way they are, and it's kind of surprising. I think it was kind of surprising to the people that I know best in this movement, which are Jim DiEugenio, John Judge, Lisa Peace. I think they were all kind of struck by it. But the plan is to do, over the next 11 months, to do a number of things, basically whatever we can do to push back against the city of Dallas. The number one action item that we have is right now, if you go to the website, which is occupythegrassyknoll.com, and click on action items, there's a template or a sample letter to Mayor Rawlings of Dallas. And would really like everybody that listens to this, because, although there's a lot of people that listen to this and a lot of people that study the Kennedy assassination, compared to the, kind of mass movements that happen to make things happen, and, all of your emails, asking you to sign a petition or do this or that. But we're a little more limited community, so I think it's really important for everybody to go in and send a sample letter to Mayor Rawlings and let him know that, this is a freedom of speech issue, that basically by taking out a permit for a week when you don't even have events planned.
Oh, they got an 80-person glee choir going to sing there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? And maybe
for a
tap
week at a
dancing too.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it is appalling that I'd heard that Jim DiEugenio has done the evening before the 21st.
Right.
8 till 10 or 11 or midnight or whatever it is. And if that's the time they have, then they show up there and they pay their tribute. But it's going to be a VIP thing, roped off. It's just really disturbing that it's a VIP event now instead of who would go there anyway? I may have said that earlier, but who would go there if not for people who've been researching the JFK assassination?
Right. And I would like to make the point that we don't know that for sure. We don't know exactly how they're going to rope it off or who would get the VIP tickets, or we really don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. Having been to Dealey Plaza, I don't have a view of how they could rope the thing off or fence it off if they wanted to. I mean, I don't know how it would look.
That's where the renovations are going to come into play. I'm sure they've already taken that into account.
But the point is that right now there's people in Dallas making these decisions, and if they have the feeling that a lot of people care about this and a lot of people are going to push back against it, it might affect the decisions that they're making. So I think that's why it's important that we start to do that now. Now, we have other ideas for ways of pushing back against the city of Dallas, but that's the action item we have on the plate right now.
Right, that was action number one?
Yes, action number one. There's ideas out there about, having everybody wear T-shirts, to the event, assuming, and I'm still assuming that we can, blackout radio or something.
I've got a shirt for you. I'll show you later. I've got a shirt for you.
But, we don't know yet whether they'll use the ticketing thing to lock us out or to make it too pricey for a number of people to get in.
You can only assume that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we got to assume the worst and prepare for the worst. But one thing I'd like to say here is about the word occupy, because I think that brings into a connotation of dissent and you get the picture of the Occupy protesters that were tear gassed at Berkeley and that kind of thing. And, we would like to resolve this with the city of Dallas so that we have our moment of free speech. We've suggested, and the letter suggests, that they move their event to the Kennedy Memorial there in Dallas, which they've had events at before, and leave the public park open as a public park. And that's what it should be, and that's what if there's going to be a lawsuit over this, over freedom of speech, that's what the argument's going to be.
Now, never having been there, where is the Kennedy Memorial?
I believe I could be wrong about this. John's talked about it a couple times, but I think it's at the front of the plaza facing.
Right, I know. There's just a little plaque then.
Yeah. And so you could have that, and you'd have a whole street behind it, and you could put bleachers, and it actually lends itself to being roped off and things like that.
Right.
But there's nothing that lends itself to roping off the actual assassination spot.
Well, it's a strange, not coincidence, but anyway, it's just strange that you want to celebrate his life at 12:30 on the 22nd when he was killed.
Right.
What about his birthday?
And not discuss the controversies that are just so outstanding. And the polls show now, I guess 90% of Americans think that there was some kind of a conspiracy. I've 86%, whatever, but well over 75%. And yet the establishment media has told us over and over for 50 years that Oswald did it. There's nothing to see here. But people don't believe it. And the reason people don't believe it is, for one thing, they can see the Zapruder film and they can see the shot to the head, and it's pretty obvious.
And as you look in further, I mean, you only have to start with researching what Jim Garrison already did. He laid the groundwork.
Right.
I mean, get his book On the Trail of the Assassins, or watch the Oliver Stone film, and then buy a book or two and look into it, and you find it's overwhelming, the amount of information that's out there. I mean, you can get into medical records, all the kind of stuff that, not every researcher agrees with things, but there's so much information that is just out there already that, for me, all you have to do is look at Commission Exhibit 399. You look at that bullet and there's no way that did that. Are you kidding me? Oh, you're not kidding? Okay, well, we don't believe you.
Yeah, and those are just two of thousands of reasons why the story doesn't
100,
hold up. 100.
Yeah.
And you see it on your bookshelves, and I see it in John Judge's bookshelves and my bookcase, and everybody out here's got all this information. And yet, occasionally you have to argue with somebody that just doesn't know any of this stuff. Well,
if you don't mind me bringing up something, that's why I've started my own little kickback against about the sixth floor in Dallas, and that is I've had videos, and we planned 52 of them, right? Mm-hmm. So it's 50 reasons for 50 years. So one will be an introduction, and one will be a conclusion. So you search on YouTube as well, you'll see over the next year, week after week, we're going to show you why we don't believe the Warren Commission. And it's not me. It's highlighted as if people have been watching by different authors and that. And each one is just, 2 or 3 minutes, short and sweet to the point, just here's why we don't agree with it, And there's a lot of people have done a lot of research already. Like I mentioned Jim Garrison, but there's a lot of things that are wrong. And for a government and news agencies to continually parrot that it was a lone nut, and Gary Mack and the embarrassment of the Sixth Floor Museum, that's really an insult. So, I hope that just a lot of people in Dallas don't know better. They just don't know what's really going on there. And they think, it sounds like a good idea to be a celebration for Kennedy. Okay, he got killed here. We should try to make it up. We'll have something, a moment of silence. But people have been doing that already. And these have not been the people like the McAdams or those kind of guys, or the Posners or the Bugliosi. These are the people like John Judge who've been going there, rain or shine, saying we're going to try to pay tribute. And, it's hard to bring the people responsible to justice now. I'm sure a lot of them are dead. But the idea that we'll at least have an honest investigation and prevent it from happening in the future so that we recognize what happened.
Well, one of the things that on the website is some articles by local reporters in Dallas. One of them is Jim Schulte, or Schultz, maybe.
Schultz.
Yeah, who writes for the Dallas Observer, and he's written some great articles on the ridiculousness of this
I
scenario.
interviewed him a little while ago. So, he's a refreshing voice in the press,
So even people in Dallas are exposed in some way to the ludicrousness of the situation. But what I wanted to say is that I don't think of this Occupy the Grassy Knoll as being a confrontation like that, like a violent thing that might happen. Although I'm sure the occupiers at Zuccotti Park weren't expecting to be beat on by tasers and tear gas and whatever either. But there is a difference in what we're trying to do here. And one of the differences is that I don't think we should lose track of is that the people that are most interested in this were alive when John F. Kennedy was shot. And that puts us all 55, 60 up years. Yeah. And so we're not going to be a bunch of kids there. We're going to be a bunch of serious researchers and people that have done a lot of good work, and physicians and people like Cyril Wecht that have credentials. And if we can all lock arms, figuratively or maybe even literally, and identify ourselves as, I don't know how you say it, I like to use the term conspiracy realist instead of conspiracy theorist, but somehow get to the international reporters that are going to be there, because I think that's really what makes this kind of a threat to the system, is that they kind of can contain the message going out to Americans, but the international reporters aren't quite so glued to their to the establishment story, and I think that makes it kind of a threat that we're going to be able to get some people in front of the cameras and present our point of view as to what happened.
Yeah, well, it's a shame that you can only get some news out when international reporters would be coming by, because you would think this is an American problem for American history. You want to teach and learn about what really happened, not Easter Bunny or Tooth Fairy, right? So it's just a belief of Lee Oswald did it, and that's that, right? As soon as you start looking into it, it's not the facts at all. And the people trying to hide that, they do an injustice to their own justice system. I mean, you've got to say, listen, of course that didn't happen. Now, what were the reasons that everyone covered it up and everybody just went along with it? Well, whatever the reasons are, let's look into it.
Well, I always thought that Michael Parenti described that really well in that if you're working and making a six-figure income in the establishment media, whether you're Chris Matthews or Wolf Blitzer or any of those guys on Fox News, that you're like a dog on the leash, and if you get past the leash, if you pull too hard on the leash, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that that most of those, if not all of them, know that something else happened in Dallas, but they also know that their career depends on staying within the box.
Yeah. It's an education. Yeah, when you hear Bill O'Reilly or those guys, that they talk what they did earlier in their careers,
right,
investigating, and then now it's just everyone go back to sleep, right?
Yeah,
it's a little education just studying that, right? Because I think people tuning into this show, they expect, okay, what's new? What author is worthwhile reading? What new book or new film or documentary is out there? That's what we're offering. This is what the news is. Here's the latest research, not Bugliosi saying, "Oh, the Warren Commission had it right after all." Are you kidding me?
Right.
So it's I think a testament to the American public that his book failed so miserably.
That's right. So along the road here, we might do some petition drives. We might use all the tricks on the internet, Facebook pages, that kind of thing can be really powerful. And maybe sometimes we forget just how powerful that is. But to bring people in that aren't so aware of it, certainly the way one of the stories, the way Obama so handily won the election is by using social media and communicating with people. And so we want to just make it hard for Dallas to shut us out. And we're open to suggestions. There's a contact page. You can write me if you've got ideas. And in fact, I was unable to sleep last night at 3 o'clock in the morning. I had a great idea, and I'll have to run that by some people and see if we can make that work. Right. But we just cannot allow ourselves to be silenced at this juncture in history.
Yeah, the 50th at Dallas. So right now, it's a letter campaign, and go to your website and look at the action alerts or whatever you have there and get into that.
Yeah, and what I would want everybody to do is personalize that letter. And I know that everybody that's studied this for this many years certainly is not going to copy and paste the letter that I wrote and send it to the mayor. They're going to do based on whether you're a student of the assassination, whether you're a researcher, whether you're a physician, whatever, you're going to change that to say what you want it to say, and that's what we want. I don't want a bunch of form letters to go to Mayor Rawlings. But on the other hand, we did work really hard on the wording of the letter, and based on the things that have already happened with our permit and that kind of thing, so that you can obviously use that to create your letter.
Right. It just occurs to me that I guess the last thing you want is to have an Occupy where people are set down and arrested. And that you would like them to open up to the point of view, what do we need 7 days for?
Right.
And if we want to monopolize the 22nd at 12:30, well, I guess we can give them the night before. I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, I would say what has happened for the last 49 years anyway, right?
Right.
I mean, like you mentioned, these are mostly adults, coming there as a moment of silence or tribute or researchers. So, it's kind of it's a solemn place,
Yeah, and I'm maybe unlike a lot of the researchers, but I'm not entirely against. I mean, this is important enough to me that if we can lock our arms and they have to send in the police to move us out, I just think that for the city of Dallas to have to do that to a bunch of 50, 55, 60, or older people, to actually physically remove us is just bizarre. It's ridiculous. It's like, nowadays everybody's got video cameras and it's going to be all over YouTube and whatever. So I do think we have some power here in Dallas wanting to maintain a decent image and not sully it further than evidently they think it's already sullied. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. So, I mean, I don't want to take anything off the table. I don't want to threaten Dallas with something either, but I just want the city of Dallas to cooperate with us and make this a fair thing where we get to speak to the American people and they can too if they want.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what some of the replies are.
Yeah, we're certainly interested in comments from everybody listening to this and anybody that's aware of what's going on in Dallas. It's embarrassing.
Right. Now, you got a little bit of press already. You were just telling me that you had an interview.
Yeah, I had an interview just before I left, the day before I left to come out here, from a reporter with the Wall Street Journal. And I gave her contact information for John Judge and Jim DiEugenio, and hopefully she will have contacted both of them. But I'm pretty sure she is going to write an article on this, and of course, who knows how that's going to, what the perception of that is. But, I emphasize that this is a freedom of speech deal, and I emphasize that we've been doing a moment of silence for 49 years, and what are they afraid of?
Yeah. Well, I would say they're afraid of something, or they wouldn't have taken out 7 days. So, Well,
actually, John's got a quote from somebody that he talked to, and this is paraphrasing, I don't have it in front of me, but where she basically said that, we want to keep the crazies out of the plaza on that day, and that is basically you've come out and said that you're trying to stifle speech.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I haven't been there, so I don't know if there are crazies there. I don't know how to judge that.
I think she was probably referring to John and.
Oh, I see. Or like Robert Groden,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Being getting arrested 80 times, right? And I hope he sues back the city well. I hope he really takes it to them where they have to pay some monetary penalty where they recognize the guy's got.
Yeah,
if you've ever seen a picture of him, he's got like a little stand, a couple of books, and he's there talking to people, and. Right?
Yeah.
It's appalling that they have to circle the wagons like that. And of course, I have heard a few years ago somebody brought a marching band through there, so I don't know who's responsible for that. But that does seem a little weird, So, but, I hope that you can make some headway with having them have a counter proposal, right? Saying, well, we'll offer this then. How about, the day of, the day after, the evening before, whatever.
Right.
Some other time. I mean, what are they going to do with all that time anyway?
Yeah, and I'm reluctant to give them for them to throw us the bone of the evening before, because it's going to be after dark, and the reporters and the people will not all be there. I just think that on that afternoon of the actual 50th anniversary that there's going to be people all over that plaza, and we want to be represented there.
Right. So how long have you had the website up? Just like a month or two now?
It's been about 4 months now.
4? Okay.
And I was actually surprised that after the 49th anniversary passed, how quickly things started to happen. So I've got some work to do on the website as far as the link to Facebook page and that kind of thing. But certainly there's people that know how to do, know how to help me with that, and I know pretty much, how to do that. But we need ideas. We need ways to push back and ways to counter the Tom Hanks propaganda and the Bugliosi propaganda and whatever else might be happening. And for that matter, I'm sure a lot of people out here, have written letters to the editor, and there will be editorials and things printed in your local newspaper that's going to make us all want to gag, and so we can all fight back, push back that way too.
Right. Okay, so at the website, people can contact you, and if they have support or ideas or anything, run it by you, and we can keep in touch with. I'll make a link to your site on the show notes here, right? But right. So, okay. Anything else? I guess just before we wrap up that we didn't cover.
No, I don't think so. I just think that. We've spent too much time. Like I said, for me, it hasn't been 40 years, but for a lot of the people listening to this, it's been a long time. They all think it's important, and 50th anniversary coming up, and I just think that we can't that we have to do everything we can to make sure that our voice is heard, and our voice is basically saying, whatever you believe about it, that something else happened other than Lee Harvey Oswald and his one rifle and his three shots. It's ridiculous.
The Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
So I guess ideally, people are pushing for in 2013 to release more records, to get a better understanding of what happened, and with the release of records and research going on, it will illuminate what really did happen.
Right,
and that's just what people want. They're demanding an honest investigation, and if the government isn't doing it, these individual researchers are pooling the resources and coming up with what happened, and you just find it an insult that the city of Dallas would stifle that, and you're calling it free speech. We just wanted to do that.
And you just mentioned one of the ideas that was a T-shirt idea was, free the files on the back. That's one of the words that somebody came up with, because there are, most people aren't aware that there are so many files out there that we could really use, the Joan Eady's files in particular. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of other ones that the researchers are well aware of that we could certainly stand to.
Well, it's funny because it's kind of a catch-22. If they didn't have revelations of agency involvement, they wouldn't be, tooth and nail fighting the release of them, right? They would say, here's all the articles and research and documentation, and it was one lone man. We've proved it.
Right.
But no, that's not the way it is. Oh, we've got to hide these. They have to be, first of all, is it 2017 when some will be released?
Right.
And so it's just, keep pushing it back and push it back and
make some of them disappear along the way.
Yeah. Well, you can count on that, but at any rate, it is astounding what's available already.
Right.
That with the ARB, some of the things that have been come out, and the good work of Doug Horn and others to say that there was a lot there that we didn't get to.
Well, I was going to mention that earlier, but of all the Blackout podcasts that I've listened to, Doug Horn's was one of the most just surprising, flabbergasting. I can't think of the right word for it, but that was just an amazing interview of something that that I was, only peripherally aware of. So that was good.
Yeah, you would think that all the people on the ARB were of one mind, and we've got to really do justice to this. And no, you find out. No, they're just there in an official duty. We're not going to open up anything. We're just going to find the files and say we found them and leave it at that, right?
Right. And the other thing is that, we were talking about how the CIA or the government, I guess, pushed back against this records release all along. And if you go read Jim's new book, Destiny Betrayed, the pushback against Jim Garrison's investigation and the pushback against, every step of the way.
Yeah.
And here we are 50 years later and they're still doing it. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Just let us speak in Dallas. What are you afraid of? It's 50,
Well, you'd have to say they're afraid of the truth then.
Yes.
Of where the truth is going to lie here is an embarrassment. And what role did the city of Dallas, inadvertently play? I mean, that's where it happened. So,
Right.
But I don't think it was planned in the city of Dallas.
I think the assassination could have happened in Miami. It could have happened in Chicago. It happened to happen in Dallas.
Yeah.
In any place that it would have happened, they would have compromised some officials and police, in Dallas. And so there's probably some embarrassment for Dallas, but not really. It's an embarrassment for the whole country that it happened and that it was allowed to be covered up like this. It's not really an embarrassment to Dallas so much.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit that those people don't know. They haven't gone through the research, because the easiest way to clear Dallas then is to let people, they want to have the sixth floor museum where it's a continual one-man show. It's a dog and pony show. But if they had a real investigating show, and not a sideshow, but illumination of what the facts are, you would say, well, yeah, this wasn't, although a lot of people may have inadvertently gone along with things, or allowed certain things to happen. They didn't realize the ramifications that Kennedy would be murdered there. There's some embarrassment of, cover your ass and just pretend you didn't see this, or but to me, if I was the mayor of Dallas, I'd think, okay, we can clear our name by just showing what's available.
Yes.
And as soon as you realize that it's a bigger effort, it's not one lone nut or somebody living in Dallas, right? To me, that clears it. Okay, well, I'll say good luck, and we'll see what happens. I'll maybe talk to you by phone in the coming months to see how things are going, if you have any headway. And it may be that the city of Dallas backs down a little bit and offers something that would make, you, John Judge,
Yes.
Copa, happy, some kind of concession. I mean, because there are going to be conferences there. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They wonder how many hotels and things can we book for the city of Dallas? Like, what kind of
Yes.
tourism is it? So they know people are going to show up. They should know that. I mean, I've heard that the hotels are already taking advance orders from Deborah Conway and things like that. They're
Right.
getting ready for a lot of people to visit, as it happened in the 40th. So it's a shame they have to be worried about the crazies. So you would think that there's just a lot of people interested in John F. Kennedy, his legacy, and there to pay a tribute to him. Otherwise, you could go any other time of the year.
Right.
You could go any other time. I mean, to go in the summer or something like that, right? But you going there in November because that's where he was murdered, where and when, So.
And, I think everybody in the community understands the significance, and the highly regarded work of Jim Douglas and JFK and the Unspeakable, which goes to motive. And that's the importance of this research that everybody's done for 50 years, is the motive. And
somebody should send the mayor of Dallas JFK and the Unspeakable, and then he wouldn't be so sensitive about the city of Dallas,
Yes.
He would say, those are the high, powerful enemies that Kennedy made, and those are the reasons he was removed. And that was their last straw,
Exactly.
And, okay, yeah. All right, then.
It's been great being great meeting you, and
thanks for being a guest.
Great to be a guest.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Cool. John, I think our conversation went fine. Sometimes in audio things, the worst thing that happened to me was my phone went